Welcome back, everybody, to the Teen Titans retrospective. This is the season 2 finale, so get ready for some dark shit. Season 2, episode 12, Aftershock. Part 1, written by David Slack and directed by Ciro Nieli. Maybe content warning for this episode. There's some dark shit in this episode of the show, and especially in the comic that it's based on, that we're going to talk about. So, I don't know, dark themes in this episode about a cartoon for children. So yeah, this is the season 2 finale and the conclusion of the Terra arc. This is where we really get into some of the darker elements and the darker thematic stuff of this storyline. It's actually a little surprising what they were able to get away with in this storyline, with how dark some of this stuff is, especially considering how goofy this show often is. But again, I think that juxtaposition really makes these types of darker storylines hit much harder. Because you're used to the goofy antics, when something gets like serious, it really hits home and really feels impactful and important. So with part 1, we jump right into things. Terra and Slade are on the same page. They're both evil and ready to destroy the Teen Titans. Terra has a new outfit. Again, I like seeing the progression of Terra's character throughout this season, and we get multiple different outfits to kind of show her progression as her character gets developed throughout the season, as well as her progression in power level. This outfit gets fixed with a little Slade emblem, very similar to the one that Robin wore back when he was Slade's apprentice. We're drawing parallels to that story, of course. And then we basically just jump right into the action. Titans are hanging out and Terra attacks them. Very heavy on the action in this episode, and the animation is top quality throughout. Lots of great action sequences. Really creative utilization of all the different characters' powers, especially Terra this episode. We really get to see how far along she's come with her powers. She has the most control that we've seen of her. She has all kinds of crazy moves that she pulls out in this one. And she's able to hold her own against all of the Titans at once. She's even better at just regular hand-to-hand combat. You can kind of guess that she's been training with Slade. She's able to even fight one-on-one with Robin and hold her own. Very cool to see just how far she's progressed throughout the season, and she's an intimidating force in this episode. The Titans, of course, are trying to reason with her and trying to talk her down, but she's gone full villain mode at this point. She's ready to take them all out. So during this fight, Terra does this brand new move where she summons these earth elementals that's a thing she could do now. And this is where we get an explanation of the purpose of her new Slade battlesuit thing. Slade explains that this new bad guy battlesuit thing that Terra's wearing not only enhances her powers, so she's able to do crazy shit like summon earth elementals to help her fight, but it also links into her nervous system and allows Slade to help her use her abilities. So Slade is given control over Terra's body. He phrases it to in a way that's I'm helping you reach your full potential, but we could very clearly see it's Slade wanting to control Terra. Again, the theme of control comes back. When the first episode with Terra introduced this idea that she has trouble controlling her powers, and Slade, of course, first tempted Terra by saying that he could help her learn to control her abilities. What he's really after is that he is emotionally manipulating her in order to control her. And now we see that theme kind of manifest physically as well. He's not just controlling her emotionally, but physically as well. And it's very fucking creepy. I want to take a minute to talk about the original Terra storyline, the Judas contract. There are a lot of differences, but there's some thematic stuff that I think this show does in a really interesting way. It kind of talks about some of the themes from the original comic in a way that's a lot more nuanced and compelling, but also without explicitly stating them. So, okay, in the original comic, part of the twist of the whole event that was kind of the whole Judas contract concept was that Terra, who was a member of the Titans for a little while at this point, turns out she's been working for Slade and betrays the Titans in this big way. But part of the thing of she's been working with Slade is that we realize that she's actually been sleeping with Slade. Like, they're a thing, which is very creepy when you remember that Terra is a teenage girl. And Slade in the comics is like 50s or 60s. He has like, they go into his origin a bit. He has like some type of super soldier serum, so he's like much older than he appears. Well, he does appear kind of old, but like he's able to move and fight like a much younger man. But like age-wise, he old. And like the comic doesn't really go into the dark fucking implications of that, of Slade sleeping with a minor. In the comic, they play up the angle of like, oh shit, Terra was a bad guy all along. She's even sleeping with Slade. Oh, doesn't that make her like kind of slutty and kind of like, now that's how you know she's really a bad guy. And it's like, but she's a teenager though. Like she's a victim. And the comic like doesn't really go into it from that angle. Like, Terra is not really portrayed very sympathetically in the comic, despite, like, when you think about what's on the page, it's like you have a minor sleeping with a much older dude who's a supervillain and is, like, clearly using and abusing her in order to fuel his vendetta against the Teen Titans. Like, it's dark, fucked up shit, and the comic, like, only kind of goes into that. Now, the cartoon doesn't really go into whether or not Slade and Terra are like sleeping together. I don't think they are, but there is like an element of older creepy bad man keeping a young teenage girl around, and it's kind of a grooming situation. Like, we have this one shot in the first episode with Terra where he like puts the hair clip in her hair, and it's like very creepy. And again, like, I don't think that Terra and Slade literally sleep together in the show, even if it's not something we ever see on screen. Like, I don't even think it's something that happens behind the scenes. But there is like an element of that in the subtext, especially with this concept of Slade being able to control Terra's body. Like, it's just listen to the language here.
We are connected, Terra. United as master and apprentice. We fight as one.
It's very reminiscent of like two bodies becoming one flesh. Makes me uncomfy. And like that paired with like there's an opening scene I forgot to mention where Terra like swears her allegiance to Slade.
You belong to me now, don't you?
I do.
From this day forward, will you serve me and me only?
I will.
Will you obey my every command?
I will.
Swear to be mine and be like my property and stuff. It's very, very creepy. And that's like, it's all there in the subtext. Like, I'm not like reaching for anything here. Like, it's in there. You just have to look for it. And they just put all this shit in like a fucking children's cartoon. But it's done very well because Terra is, even in the first part where like she's kind of gone full villain mode, there's still an angle of like tragedy to it. There's still this very like underlying sadness. We feel bad for Terra because we know that she was their friend. She was a good person, and she's a child, and she's being taken advantage of by a creepy bad guy. Ugh, I don't like it, but I love it because it's very well done, but it's very dark and creepy. All right, so back to the actual plot. The Titans realize that they need to regroup. They're losing this fight. So they go back. There's some discussion about like, what do we do? Because Terra seems to just be a bad guy now. Should we just stop her like any other bad guy? Beast Boy especially fights that, like, no, she was our friend. There's still good in her. We can't just give up on her. He has this interaction with Robin I really like, where Robin's like, yeah, but she's working for Slade. And Beast Boy's like, yeah, and did we give up on you when you were working for Slade? And Robin's like, all right, fair point. So they resolve to try one last time to reach out to her and to try to turn her back to the good side. Meanwhile, Terra goes to that one supervillain prison. I believe it's supposed to be the same one that we've seen in previous episodes, and breaks out our big dumb elemental type recurring villains: Cinderblock, Plasmus, and Overload. So now the Titans have to fight these guys as well. Lots of big action fighting going on, but the main fight I want to focus in on is what starts as Raven versus Overload, but then becomes Raven versus Terra. This fight is really, really well done. We get tons of like great power usage and really cool sequences from both of them. It is a little bit a mud wrestling fight.
Give me back my bra. I'm not even wearing a bra.
I don't even care who wins.
But I still think it's very cool just thematically, and these two going at it, two of, at this point, the most powerful characters on the show, because now Terra's like at another level. She does all kinds of crazy moves in this sequence. Like there's this one part where she is like covered in mud and she is able to like slowly earthbend all the mud off of her, and it looks really cool. She's also being like prompted by Slade to like target in on Raven's emotions, because we know that Raven's powers are connected to her emotions, and if she loses control of her emotions, she'll lose control of her powers. So she makes this like Raven puppet out of mud and is like mimicking her and stuff. And Raven does end up losing control at one point and going like full demon mode on Terra. Very cool visuals, very cool sequence all around. One thing I really like about this sequence is like when I was remembering it, I was thinking they were gonna lean a little bit into the like, Terra is obviously like set up as a love interest for Beast Boy, and Raven kind of has moments of that with Beast Boy as well. And so in my mind, I thought they might play up the angle of like, we both like the same boy maybe, and we're fighting about him. But it's not about that at all, and I appreciate that because it's much smarter. They really play up the angle of Raven is super pissed at Terra because she feels betrayed. She trusted Terra, and Terra betrayed them. That comes out in this fight. Obviously, like the whole team trusted Terra and stuff, but going back to that one episode where they had to work together, Raven is like, all right, I'm going to put my trust in you. And like Raven doesn't really trust anyone. Like that's been her whole thing. She has to be super guarded because of how dangerous her powers can be. And they brought in a new person onto their team. Raven was skeptical initially, but she did come around. And to have that trust be broken for Raven is like such a big deal. Because she lets so few people in, literally the only people she trusts are the Teen Titans, and it took like over halfway through season 1 for her to even fully trust them. So for her to be vulnerable enough to trust another person is like a huge step, and for her to be like punished for trusting another person is like a huge deal to her. So she fucking rages out and she loses control. Again, the theme of control coming back. Very cool parallel for these two characters, of course, also because they're both ultimately like victims of their kind of parental figures. Terra's being Slade, who's like also maybe grooming her, but is also kind of acting as a father figure to her. Very creepy stuff all around. We'll get into Raven's relationship with her dad a lot more, but from what we've seen so far, we know it ain't good. So like there's parallels to these characters, two of the most tragic characters on the show. Very, very smart to have them like face off, and it'd be like such an emotionally charged fight, and just like fucking cool looking fight too. Ultimately, Terra ends up winning this fight. The other Titans are able to defeat, at least temporarily, like Cinderblock and Plasmus, but then they face off again with Terra and she defeats them. Robin almost gets the upper hand, and at least it comes the closest to taking Terra out. And I love this too because like all the other Titans have like crazy big powers that they're going at her with, and she's just like able to match them. And then Robin just fucking tackles her, and it like is almost enough to take her out. This is where we get some of the Robin versus Terra like hand-to-hand combat, and she's like able to hold her own against him, which is impressive because he is the most skilled in terms of like just combat abilities. Like he doesn't have any powers to like back him up. Obviously he has a lot of gadgets and stuff, and that helps as well, but in terms of just like good at fightingness, he ranks the highest on the Titans for sure. And so the fact that Terra is able to like hold her own while minimally using her abilities is very impressive. And I wonder if, because I was saying earlier that she's obviously trained with Slade now too, so she's like able to fight more, but also we know that Slade is partially controlling her and helping her fight and stuff. So I'm wondering if there's like a little bit of that going on too, where like Slade is maybe fighting through Terra to Robin. Many layers of what's going on here. We also bring back the mirror motif where Robin is able to like hold her against this fence and she can see this like broken mirror and he's like, look at what you've become and stuff. We also double down on the Terra having like part of her face covered with her hair, and we like draw attention to that makes her look a lot more like Slade, who is also missing an eye, and you know, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind or something. I don't know, there's a theme there probably. At the very least, it's a obvious visual parallel to Terra and Slade, kind of showing that she's maybe too far gone at this point. But yeah, the episode ends with Terra defeating all of the Titans. She defeats Robin, and they all kind of end up getting thrown down underground somewhere. They survive, but she was pretty much trying to kill them, and that's where part 1 ends. Pretty good cliffhanger all around. That's right, we're pulling a every movie this year by splitting this video into 2 parts. So subscribe if you want to see part 2 of the season finale. I'll see you next week.